As I just mentioned in the introduction, this is Learning Coach Training. This exists for parents in order to be your guide to helping your student be successful in the program. But students, I want you to go through it too, so that the family as a whole is going to be in the know about program expectations. So before I go any further, I do want to make sure that I point out the material that I'm discussing here is an extension of what's already in the handbook, which you can find on our website. If you go to the Aiken iNNOVATE homepage and you hover over policies, you can find a direct link to our handbook right here. I strongly encourage anybody who is participating, any family who has students in this program needs to read this. Even if you've been with us before, I strongly encourage a refresher. We do make updates to the handbook on a regular basis, and so we want to make sure that everyone is in the know. This is our one stop for everything that our program is about. Moving right along, there are a few things that we do expect from every student before, or every family before a student can start with us, and those things are the signed handbook contract, the student orientation course in Schoology, and learning coach training. So the handbook contract is you signing that you understand the policy and expectations for our program based on the handbook I just showed you. So that's something that you do after learning coach training. We'll provide you with the link at the end of the module. Now, I do want you to know that if we don't have the handbook contract, we're going to require you to go through learning coach training. So it's important that you complete this whole module so that we can say that you were able to complete the learning coach training and that your onboarding is done. Finally, no student is able to start without having completed the orientation course in Schoology. So these three things are required for any student that is going to participate with us. If we don't have those by your start date, it could mean there's a delay in you getting started. And if we don't get them at all, then we're going to remove your privilege for being able to participate, because we must have full understanding of what this partnership entails. So what is the learning coach? The learning coach is the essential family component of this 50-50 partnership that I'm referring to. Now, I've said that a few times. So what do I mean by that? Well, we don't see your student. We literally cannot sit shoulder to shoulder or tap your student on the shoulder and say, hey, I noticed you seem a little down today. How can we help? Or I noticed that you're just sitting there, or maybe your head's down on the desk, and I need you to get working on this. We don't have the ability to do that in this program. The best we can do is meet you on the screen. We do our 50% to hold live sessions and teach, to provide opportunities for students to get intervention and help, and we make phone calls and emails, and we send messages through the ACPSD app. But none of that is going to be able to bring success to a student that doesn't receive those things and then have the independence at the home to be able to log in, and the accountability provided by the learning coach to be able to complete the work. So we really do need your help. It is not passive. Learning coaches are there to help support students, make sure they're logging in, and make sure they're getting the work done. In terms of what we're looking for in learning coach responsibilities, we need help making sure that students are logging in and attending live sessions. This is key to our program. One of the things that separates us from other high school virtual programs is the fact that we do have teachers that meet with students on a regular basis. So help make sure that students are logging in and that they're completing not only live sessions, but also that they're logging in and doing their schoolwork. We should not have situations where you see your student up walking around playing video games at all times during school hours, because outside of live sessions, they have a lot of work they need to get done in order to keep their grades up. Which brings me to the second piece, academic monitoring. This is so important. The PowerSchool app is not a suggestion. It is a requirement for anyone who has a student in this program. We really need you to download this app and use it to monitor grades. We update grades on a weekly basis directly in PowerTeacher Pro. So there's never going to be a time where you go 2, 3, 4 weeks and grades are not put in. And I say that because we do sometimes have students that will tell parents, hey, my teacher just hasn't updated grades yet. That's not true. Our teachers update grades weekly. And so if you're seeing those grade notifications show that your student is not being successful, that's your cue to have a conversation and to put something in place at home to ensure that the student is completing work. We also need there to be an environment that is conducive for students to work. So help figure out as a family what the workspace looks like. Where will your student be? Where will they learn? What are the rules around screen time or tablets or TVs? If there's a TV across the room from where the student is working, then they're watching TV. They're not able to focus on schoolwork. So help us figure out what the rules need to look like in your house to provide a conducive space for your student to work. And then support and logistics. Sometimes the computers are going to have problems, and they might need to be brought in to be looked at. Or students may need help or assistance with troubleshooting. Students come to us with all sorts of different levels of skill when it applies to their ability on a computer. So some students are going to need more help than others. And then active communication is probably the most important thing. We need you to make sure that the information in PowerSchool is accurate. You need to be checking your email. You need to be able to receive our phone calls. You need to be able to see our notifications in the ACPSD app. All these things, I strongly recommend that they are on your phone so that you can keep continual communication and oversight over the progress of your student. We do expect students to be successful with us. So we have an eligibility process where we look at grades, attendance, discipline, and if a student comes to us and they're eligible, it means that they're being, at least for the most part, successful at their in-person setting. So when they come with us, if a student can't demonstrate that same level of success, then that means that the family partnership isn't working. And after interventions have been done, if no success is being had by the student, then we do have a process by which we will revoke permission and have a student return back in person if interventions are not able to turn the situation around. So to be transparent about what that entails, students need to be able to pass the majority of their classes. They need to be attending school. We need to have faith that the family is going to be able to support us with helping students to be successful. We monitor grades roughly every 2 to 3 weeks, and we will send some kind of progress report or notification your way to let you know if your student is in danger of permission being revoked based on their grades and their attendance and what we see on the academic side. So keep a lookout for those emails, but the easiest way to get ahead of this is just to do like we already mentioned, monitor PowerSchool and make sure that students are being successful while they are with us. We also have a program commitment. We are expecting you to stick with us. We do not allow students to just leave 2 or 3 weeks into the quarter. High school students, once they start, they have to continue. It's the same as if we are in person. There's a certain point after the first 5 days of class where students can no longer consider changes to their schedule. It's the same way with us. We staff based on where our numbers are, and we don't allow students to just come and go whenever they want, because that creates logistical issues with us and also with the homeschool, as some of the courses students may need may not be available. So it's common for students to return to their in-person setting and then have to sit in a lab and take the course virtually anyway. We also had this built into the parent contract, or the Aiken iNNOVATE contract that you're going to sign. So we want to be super transparent about this. For middle school students are permitted to leave at the end of any quarter. So after quarter one, if you decide you want to go back in person, you just let us know and we can help to coordinate that. For high school, again, as I mentioned, that is a semester-long commitment. So if you come to us in July and in August you decide that you want to think about going back to in-person, you're going to need to wait until January in semester 2 to do that. Next, just about our program in general, one of the things that we strive to do is create a level of flexibility with how we provide education to students. That's one of the reasons why you're here, I'm sure. Most students are looking for an online program that is not a carbon copy of an in-person schedule. So we don't have a schedule where you sit in front of class in a very rigid and structured way every single day of the week. We have an A-B block schedule where on A days, students are going to meet with teachers on Mondays and Wednesdays. And then on B days, you'll meet with teachers on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So what I mean by this, when I say meet with teachers, you'll have live sessions via the Teams program through Microsoft 365. And so if you have English 1 and it's in block 1 on an A day, then starting at 8 o'clock, you would on Mondays and Wednesdays attend English. And that block is about 90 minutes long, just like in school. But most of the time, teachers don't hold students that long on a live session. We ask that teachers go between 30 and 70 minutes, depending on what it is that they need to cover. So if you're getting ready for an exam, the teacher may hold you longer to review. And then sometimes you might be working on a project, and the teacher might hold you for a little bit and then let you leave and spend that time working on the project. We provide a lot of flexibility in that way. B days work the exact same way. So here's the thing. Parents, during the day, students are going to have a lot of time when they're not in a live session directly working with the teacher. So please monitor that and help us make sure that the students are logging in and working. It's going to take them hours and hours to complete coursework outside of live sessions. So in my household, the way it looks is students during school hours are working really hard on schoolwork, and then that way they have their evenings and weekends relatively free. Whatever that looks like for you, set up those boundaries and just help us monitor and make sure students are getting work done. The cool thing about this program is that some students come to us because they need more time to work on assignments. Other students come to us because they don't want to be held back by other students and they want to work faster. This program allows you to do both. If you want more information about our AB block schedule, if you go to our website and hover over About Us, and then come down and click on Aiken iNNOVATE Schedules, you can see where we put some information about how this works, as well as what our bell schedule looks like. Moving right along, we are a virtual program, and so the entire environment is online on a computer. There are certain digital skills that we are expecting that students know how to do. And if they don't, that's okay, but it just means that there may be more parental support provided by the learning coach that would be required for them to be successful. So here they are. Very basically, students need to be able to type and navigate the computer using a trackpad, which is like the mouse built into the laptop. You are able to get a wireless mouse and connect that via Bluetooth or using a dongle to make it a little bit easier for that. The computers are also touchscreen. Students need to be able to browse the internet safely and efficiently and know how to do that. They need to be able to multitask. Sometimes students are going to be working in a team session while at the same time going through Schoology and doing schoolwork, or they might have multiple things open at once. We are also expecting that students and parents are adept at checking email. This is our primary means of communication. Students should be checking email in the morning and in the afternoon, which is one of the things listed in our contract, just because we communicate regularly and daily with students individually and through groups. For example, if I have a teacher who has an emergency after lunchtime, they might leave, and the only way the student will get notification about a course being canceled is if they check their email to see that. So we do expect the students to do that. For parents, you probably need to check your email every day or every other day. And if you're receiving notifications on your phone like I do, you have your email on your phone, then that also will alert you if there's ever an issue. We also need students to be able to join and participate in Teams meetings, so they may need support with that. Saving and organizing assignments and files in folders. We use OneDrive for that primarily. I don't advise students to save their work directly on the device. Your device has only a little bit of space on it, and we don't want the computer to not perform well because of a ton of stuff. So students will need to use OneDrive for that. We also require that students upload all assignments directly into the LMS. So we don't accept any assignments via email. They get lost in a sea of other emails, and sometimes that prevents the teachers from grading work. So we do require that students be able to upload directly to the SIS. For other applications like Word and PowerPoint, students might need to do projects or assignments in that way. And then obviously copying and pasting is important. Students need to be able to sometimes copy and paste images when working on a PowerPoint presentation, or copy and paste other kinds of text and all that. Aiken Innovate does follow the ACPSD attendance policy. Now this one's important because we want to be totally open about the fact that you can't just go and do internet school and then disappear. We do expect that students are logging in and completing assignments, so there's going to be the needle moves on their academics. If we don't hear from you and we don't see you during live session and you're not working in the course and you're not submitting anything, we do count that as absences. And after a student is out for a set amount of time, it does become a truancy issue, and district attendance offices do get involved with that. If we can't find you or we don't hear from you at all, we will send the police over to check on you. Again, that's just part of our process of family partnership, and we do take it very seriously if for some reason we can't reach out or we have no contact with a student or a family. So we are going to try and connect with you before we get to that point. But the point I'm trying to make is we do need you to actually attend. That is a non-negotiable. We have students that will come to us and then immediately go on vacation. That's a no-go as well. So keep in mind that if you travel outside the country, if you're on a cruise ship or if you're going to another country, the computer will not work. We have to know if something like that happens so we can plan for it. We don't excuse vacations in the middle of the school year. So please make sure that you are looking at the academic calendar on the website to ensure that your vacations don't interfere with you being able to attend school and complete your coursework. Keep in mind also that in December and in the month of May, those are usually the months where we have final exams and state testing. Those are not, you're not allowed to miss those tests. They are required assessments and they must be done in person. So state tests like EOCs and SC Ready must be done at the home zone school. So if your student attends South Aiken High School, or if they're zoned for South Aiken High School and that's where you registered them, they would go to South Aiken to take tests like the English 2 EOC, for example. And then final exams for any high school credit course happens on our campus. And so if you can't come in and take those tests, you're going to get docked 20% off your grade because they are actual graded assignments and we cannot give them virtually through our regular assessment process. So make sure that we're following the attendance policies that are in place. In terms of what it looks like for attendance in our program, you're not really attending. Students attend from their home. So what we do is we measure their activity. If a student is logging into live sessions, they're counted as present. If a student is completing graded assignments, they're counted as present that way as well. We have a late work policy on application style assignments that require that those are turned in by the end of the week. So all of our program due dates are going to be on Sundays. So if today is Monday and I'm a teacher and I'm teaching human geography, I would say by the end of this week on Sunday, here are the assignments that must be completed. After that Sunday due date, those assignments are going to be penalized at 20%, so that the highest grade you can make is an 80. But then we would accept those assignments all the way through the next Sunday. So we have almost 2 weeks to turn in work for our program. After that second Sunday, application assignments will no longer be accepted and they will be zeros, and that can hurt your grade really, really bad. Now, for tests, we do things a little bit different. We'll get into that on a later slide. So I mentioned earlier that the PowerSchool Parent Portal app is going to be a required app. This is one that while you're doing learning coach training and district onboarding, we want to make sure that you have this set up before your student starts with us. So if you need support, please don't hesitate to ask. It is going to ask for a district code whenever you go in to download the app and you're setting up your PowerSchool account. That right there is the code. Now, if you've already set up a PowerSchool Parent Portal account, I don't think it's going to ask you for this. You just need to know your credentials. If you need help on resetting your credentials or knowing those, please give us a call so we can help. You can also get that information from your home zone school. Now, we also have the ACPSD for Communications app. This is another one that I'm going to say is a required app because communication is the most important part of ensuring that students are successful with us. And my teachers are only going to reach out to you either by email, by phone call, or by this ACPSD app, which is the Rooms app. That's the same app that you have used if you have been in the district in the last couple of years. It allows for two-way communication between teachers, students, and parents on your phone. So it's very, very convenient. My teachers would not text you from their personal numbers. So that is not something that we're expecting them to do, which is why it's so important that students and parents have these communication tools. So, and I do also want to point out that PowerSchool and being, when we send grades and we update grades and you receive those notifications in PowerSchool, that is a form of communication. Myself, having a student in the program, whenever I see something change and the grade goes down, I have those conversations with my student immediately. So it is a very effective tool if you use it right. The Schoology parent account is one that I'm going to say is not a required app for our program, but is a good thing to have in place for a few reasons. So we have the ability to provide you with an access code. This can be given to you by any teacher who teaches your student. So you can ask them. It'd probably be the easiest way. You can also send me an email and I'm able to go in and look at that and get you that access code. And once you have access, you don't lose it. And that goes for really any of these, right? As long as you have a student in the program, or as long as you have a student in the district, you should retain those same accounts as long as your student is with us. So the access code, though, what this does is it allows you to see what the student sees in Schoology, including updates and assignment instructions. There is also a way to sign up for a weekly digest that gives you an email of any outstanding assignments that the student may not have completed, which is what I use. Is very helpful. So if you need help with that, we can provide that to you. It should be no problem at all. If you're starting with us at the beginning of semester 1 or at the beginning of semester 2, this one here doesn't really apply because your student's coming in and they're just gonna start the course with everyone else. But if you're coming to us in the middle of the year, because we do have like a rolling enrollment process where we can consider students to come in mid-quarter, then you're going to have to know that your grades transfer over into the current courses you're in. So the example there, if a student is coming to us from another school where they have a 50 average in geometry, then our teacher is going to copy over a 50 for every assignment leading up to the current week. And then the student is going to have to just do really, really well in order to pull up that grade. So I do want to be totally open and transparent with that. We can't just erase what a student did in the first several weeks of the quarter. They're going to bring those grades over to us. And so we just want to make sure that parents and students are aware. If that grade is a 20, the 20 will be brought over. If that grade is a 100, then the 100 will be brought over. So it goes both ways. We just want to make sure that everyone is aware. If a student is starting a course from scratch, then they're going to be responsible for making up any missed work in the first few days or weeks of school. So if you come to us and you start 3 or 4 weeks in and we have to put you in a course that you have not had already on your schedule, then you're going to have to catch up. That's going to be really hard for some. And learning coaches, that may require you to help your student come up with a schedule for getting that work done in a timely manner. And then if a student is taking a supplemental course through ACVA or the Virtual SC General Program, grades will not be transferred over. That student will start that course and will have to complete it from start to finish. Now, this is actually a very common thing. If we have students that come in mid-year, we actually have some fast track courses or some courses that start a little bit later, and we do that on purpose to be able to provide flexibility to be able to meet your needs. So this isn't as much of a big deal. It just is the fact of the matter. So any questions about this, you can reach out to our counselor can answer questions about this, or you can send me an email or send us an email at aiacpsd.net. We don't like any secrets and we don't like surprises in Aiken Innovate. I want to make sure that everybody, parents and students alike, all families understand how grades are calculated with our program. We don't do formative and summative in the same exact way that your school does. We do have formative and summative assignments, but we call the practice assignments are going to be your formative, and then your application are basically your summative. And so let me explain how this works. If you are getting ready to go and take your driving test, let's say that a student is 15 years old and they've been practicing for driving. Parents, you ride and you teach your student how to drive. And they practice with you, and they might go out 10, 15, 30 times with you before they go and they take the test with the guy at the DMV. Well, it doesn't matter what they did with you in the car. That's not where the grade comes from. The grade comes from the test with the guy at the DMV. And if they drive well and they execute the skill of driving well with him, then they will pass and they'll get their license. And if they don't, then they need to go back and practice again until they feel ready, and then they come back and they retest. That's the exact same mindset behind how our categories are set up. So let me break it down for you. We have a 10% practice. That's going to be like lessons and instruction, bell ringers, exit slips. This is really low stakes assignments that provide students with endless opportunities to work, redo, and relearn and study material needed to demonstrate skills on assessments. Then the application category, these are usually going to be teacher graded assignments that are directly related to skills-based objectives in the course. So in a social studies class, this might look like creating a research project or a PowerPoint or a map. In a Spanish class, it might look like meeting with the teacher and speaking the language and carrying on a certain conversation. In math, it might look like a master quiz. These are going to be assessments that, again, carry a substantial amount of weight. And then finally, the assessment, this is going to be the unit test itself. So if you're at the end of Unit 1, you're going to have a unit test that's going to be considered an assessment. That is 50% of the overall grade for the quarter. And so the key is, for assessments, we're going to look a little bit further in, and I'll say this again whenever I get to that slide. If students are doing the assessments, it almost guarantees that they're going to pass, even if they don't perform well on them. But keep in mind that with assessments being 50% of the grade, if a student does not do tests, then they will fail, because statistically they can't make higher than a 50 if they don't take the test. So please, learning coaches, keep that in mind. I'm going to talk more about what our tests look like on the coming slides. We also have a video that demonstrates in more depth how our grade categories work. If you look at the Innovator's Edge newsletter, this video is actually included directly in that newsletter. And we also have a one-pager that provides you with some more context. So if you want access to any of those, you can look at the newsletter and see them, or we can provide it upon request. So in terms of what we're looking for, for weekly parent responsibilities, we're looking for parents to have conversations with students at the beginning of the week, in the middle of the week, and at the end of the week. Here's what that looks like. On Sunday or Monday, parents and students should look at Schoology together. Now, why Schoology? Well, even if your course requires you to be in Virtual SC's curriculum, our teachers still link assignments to Schoology and add their due dates there. And the reason is, if you as a parent or the student log into Schoology, you can actually see those upcoming assignments that are due for the week under upcoming assignments. Here's what I mean. If you look here, I'm in a sample course, and over here on the right, you can see that on Friday, July the 24th, then these assignments here are due. And as a parent or student, you can actually now see these due dates and help create a plan for getting them done. So you know the practice assignments are low stakes and the student can do them whenever. So they can do these early on. The assessment is going to be the unit test, and so you can make a plan to help that student sign up for this test whenever you see it. And then the application assignment, you know, is going to take a little bit longer. So you can go ahead and look at the requirements for this, help the student understand what to do, and then provide support as necessary. So this is why we have those conversations while looking at Schoology. We try our best to set it up to be as easy for learning coaches and for students to be able to get support as possible. We love clarity here. Then at the end of the week, I recommend Thursday afternoon, speak with your student and find out where they are. Have they completed all the assignments? Have they done well on them? Is their grades good? Do they have any tests they need to study for? Let's go ahead and start planning for the completion of assignments that might be due the next week. This is important, and the reason why I recommend doing it on Thursday is because Fridays are our flex days, or what we call pass day. And so if a student is not done with all the assignments for the week, then they're able to use those Fridays usually to complete any loose ends for the week. They can use that day, which is a school day, to complete missing assignments. So remember, A days and B days meet on A days, Mondays and Wednesdays, B days on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So unless we have a shortened week, most of the time, students are going to have a lot of flexibility on Friday to get work done that they don't get done during the week. So on Monday, I would have a meeting with the student to talk about what's coming up. On Thursday, have a meeting with the student to make sure that they have all their loose ends tied up. And then throughout the week, parents, we're asking you to check your email. We're asking students to or we're asking you to check your PowerSchool parent portal, look for those grade updates, and ask questions or reach out to teachers if there are any questions. Make sure that your student is logging in and doing their schoolwork. That's what we're looking for you to do. Also, just as an aside too, help us make sure your student gets out and takes walks or takes breaks and sees the sun every now and again. We don't want them just sitting in front of a screen all the time. So those are kind of the duties we're looking for throughout the week from the learning coach. Additional things, we've already talked about this, but help keep a neat, tidy, well-lit workspace. We need to be able to see the student, so we need lights in the room so we can see them on camera. Some students may need help with troubleshooting technology. Another big one is if a student needs laptop support, usually the tech is going to swap out the device or wipe it and restart it. We call that device being reimaged. We need to make sure that every family has a list of any login credentials on paper at the student workstation. Now, this is important. So please help us make sure that gets done so that the student doesn't get sidelined by being locked out of their account. And then if students have access to better personal devices, you're able to use that. Tablets and phones, that's no-go territory. They don't work well with what we're asking students to do. But if you have a personal device that might be better than the student laptop, we don't mind if students use that, except for on tests. Okay, so students must use our devices when they're taking proctored tests or when they come in person to take tests in person. Now, that brings me to our testing guidelines. And this is really, really important because we already discussed earlier that because tests weigh 50% of the grade, if a student does not take them, they cannot pass their classes. So tests are extremely important, and the way that we give them is important, and we need your help as the learning coach to make sure that all families and all students are aware of these guidelines. So first, let's go over what the guidelines and the rules are. For unit tests, or anything mentioned or marked as an assessment category, we're expecting the students to take it with our lab monitor. So we have someone who monitors tests. They're the test proctor. That person's job is to give tests so that we can see the student's screen and see their face to make sure they're taking an honest test. We need to be able to make sure that we can explain this to stakeholders that question the authenticity of what students are doing when they can just use ChatGPT to answer questions or Google it. So we want to make sure that we get ahead of that, and this is how we do it. So when students are taking tests, you can think of it as almost like if they're taking a test in person. When they come in, their desks are cleared, their pencil is out, they're ready to go, and during the test, they're quiet, they're not distracted, they do the test, submit it, and then they're done. In the same way, when you're doing a test in the Aiken iNNOVATE program, no browser tabs or windows besides the test should be open, okay? The only exception is if the teacher puts in the instructions that there's more that you need to have open. The lab monitor will know that and can help you navigate that. But other than that, no other tabs at all of any kind should be open. There should be no other programs on your device that are open. If you have PowerPoint open, close it. If you have Microsoft open, close it. Not just browsers, but any other program needs to be closed. There should be no additional notes, even handwritten notes, available at your workstation. Your phone should not be at your workstation. No tablet, no additional screen. We want to make sure that students, again, have studied and are taking authentic assessments. So if we see these, it will constitute a violation. The camera must be on. So we will not permit you to take a test, students, if your camera is not working. Sometimes that happens where you just have an issue and we can't see your face. In those cases, we're going to ask you to reschedule the test and come back and take it at a later time. Don't get mad about it. We just need those issues to be taken care of, because if we can't see you, we can't even guarantee that you're the one taking the test, and we need to be able to know that. We also need to be able to see your face at the center of the frame. So a lot of times students will move the camera so that we see just their forehead. Go ahead and just know that whenever you take a test, we have to be able to see your face completely, and we are going to hold you to that. So if we don't see your whole face and you won't correct that, we are going to treat it as a testing violation. No other people, including parents, siblings, friends, anyone, can be in the room while you're taking the test. This is important. I hate to say it, but we have actually had parents take tests for students on camera. We've had people holding answers out to the side, or we've heard people give answers to questions to students who are taking tests. If we see those things, we are going to treat it as a testing violation. So please, while you're taking a test, students, make sure that your parents and no one is there to distract you, and set aside that time to make sure you can do your best. And then you're expected to complete the test during a practice session in one sitting. Now, there are a lot of situations where students will submit, or they'll leave the testing session and say they're done, but then they don't submit the test. If that happens, we will see it and we will flag it as a testing violation. And so we do need you to make sure that before the testing session is done, you have to go ahead and submit that test. If any of these are violated, it would result in a testing violation. Here's what that looks like. The first time that we see the violation of one of these guidelines, the student will receive a 0 on that assessment, and they may, in some circumstances, be given the opportunity to come and test in person and redo that under a monitored session with a person here on campus, right? So not all the time, but we do usually allow that. depending on the circumstance, because tests are such big grades. We don't want a student to completely fail, but we are going to enforce the rules of the test, right? And then once that test is recompleted, then we will allow that grade to stand under those authentic testing situation. On the second violation, there is no redo at all on a testing violation. The second violation results in a 0, and at this point, we require the student and the learning coach to come in and have an in-person meeting with administration to discuss moving forward, and we will complete a academic plan that puts in place supports and requirements for moving forward with our testing procedures. And so if there is a third after that second one and after the meeting, then the student's permission will be revoked due to our lack of ability to trust that the student's going to do an authentic test. So it's a very big deal, and we take it very, very seriously. We have to be able to ensure the authenticity of our assessments. Now, in terms of testing and times, I don't think I've got this in here, so I need to add a slide, but I'm just going to tell you, there are two hard stops for tests, okay? So we don't have time limits imposed on individual tests, but you do have to submit the test at 11:10 in the morning, no questions about it, and at 3:45 in the afternoon, no questions about it. And the reason is I can't deny my test proctor lunch, and they go on lunch at 11:10. And I can't make my test proctor stay longer than their contracted day, which is 3:45. So even if you're receiving accommodations, you're going to need to turn in those tests at that time. So if you have extended time and you anticipate that you have to take a lot of time to take a test, I need you to schedule early test sessions for that. All right. So you can start a test at 8:15 or 8:30 in the morning, and then you should have plenty of time to take that test before 11:10. And in the afternoon, you can take tests between 11:40 and 3:45. So again, hours and hours. You should be able to complete those tests within that time frame. And we've never had an issue with assessments taking that long. If there are any concerns, obviously reach out and let us know. But we do need we just want to be really, really clear on what those guidelines are. We also want to be really clear that at any point, if Aiken Innovate administration it has concerns regarding testing authenticity, meaning that something fishy, it looks like the student may be overperformed, or there's reason for us to doubt that the student did their own work, or that it was an authentic test-taking situation, we do reserve the right and will utilize the right to have the student come in person to take that test. And part of that is just, again, so we can protect the authenticity of our assessments through the Aiken Innovate program. So we just want to make sure all families are aware of that fact. So I've mentioned a few times that students need to sign up for tests. Here's what I mean by that. Since we only meet with teachers 2 days a week per class, there's no time for the teacher to administer their own test. And then, if a student can't make class, then that teacher needs to hold retakes and things like that. And that just takes a lot of the instructional time away. So since we are a flexible program and we have this A/B block schedule, we actually expect that the families schedule for the student to take their test. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. There are 3 ways. Okay. First, the Innovator's Edge. This is the newsletter that we send every Sunday afternoon. All right. So if you are in the program, you will be receiving this newsletter. Sidebar, if you're not receiving the newsletter or you don't know what I'm talking about, let me know so that we can troubleshoot that. Anybody who has an email in PowerSchool should be receiving this. But under the frequently used links, which is right here at the top, and I never change them, you've got the test scheduler. So you can click on that, and that's going to take you to where you can schedule a test. Another way is if you're on the Aiken Innovate webpage, which you can just Google Aiken Innovate from any browser and we'll come right up. You can go under technology support and you can access the test scheduler right here. There's a video that shows the why and the how for test scheduling, and then you can access the test scheduler here. The final way you can get to it is from any Schoology course. If you go to course overview and information, you can see the test scheduler right here. If you click on that, it's going to take you to the form. So now I'm going to show you what it looks like to actually complete the test scheduler. If I click here to access, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to ask you to fill in some basic information. So, parents and learning coaches, please make sure that your student has this information written out on paper at their workstation, because without it, they cannot sign up for tests. We need every student to know the student ID. We need every student to be able to successfully type their own email. And it's actually surprising how many students type their email incorrectly on this form. If you type your email incorrectly on the test scheduler, it could mean that you don't get to take your test, because it might prevent you from being added to the session. So this is very important. The email must be typed correctly. Parents, they need to have your email as well, and the teacher email, which the teacher email can be found on our website under staff. All right, so very easy to find that information. The reason why we ask for the emails is because whenever a student signs up for a test, it actually is going to automatically send a confirmation that that test is scheduled to all 3 emails. So you should never be surprised by a student having a test at a certain time, and with those things in place, it allows you to be able to help schedule and make sure that student shows up for that test. We also need you to put the course name. You can copy and paste it, from here if you need to, all right, and put that in, or you can just type in, psychology CP. Which test are you taking? If you're taking the Unit 1 test, you'll copy and paste that, or you'll type in Unit 1, Unit 2, same thing. You just put that information in, and then for test sessions, it mentions here you've got some options. If you want to do the test in person, reach out to us. Don't just show up. We want to make sure that we can actually accommodate in-person tests. And this is actually pretty rare. Usually students don't do this because this is a virtual program. So these are usually one-off situations, but you do have the right to do it if you want. And then we have virtual tests, which you'll sign up for using this calendar down here. So if I wanted to take a test, notice that right now I'm in the middle of the summer, so there are no open spots for me to take the test. If I come to once school starts, if I say, let's say I have a test scheduled on, or a test that I need to get done by the week of July the 27th, I might be able to take that test any day this week. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a time that I can sign up for the test that is not the same time that I'm signing up on or that I have live sessions. So I'm actually going to have my Teams calendar up and open at the same time as I'm looking at the test scheduler, because I don't want to take a test during a live session. Right? So you should be able to find flexibility in there. Any teacher can support you with this. So if you need help, see the teacher during office hours or during past day so you can get support with this process. But we definitely want to make sure that everyone knows how to do this. So I'm actually going to go ahead and sign up. My dog Luna is going to take a test. We're going to sign her up so we can see what happens. So I filled fields for my dog. I'm just using my email here, so just because she doesn't have a teacher. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to hit submit. When I receive that notification, it's going to look like this in my email. So the student, the parent, the teacher, all will receive an email with the student's name, all the information, letting you know exactly when you signed up to take the test. It's that simple. I wasn't able to demonstrate the calendar, but this image shows what it looks like. So, and also notice that the time indicates 30-minute intervals. What you're going to do is you're just going to sign up for the closest possible time to when you're free. So if your class goes until, 9:20, you might have to sign up for a 9:30 or 9:15 test session. You just go to whichever one is closest and come in at that time. What we don't want is we don't want you signing up for a 10 o'clock test and then showing up at 8 o'clock or at 3 o'clock. We need you to come close to the time you sign up for to make sure that we have space in the session, because we can only have 25 students at a time on the test. Now, one other thing that I want to make sure I say is, students, we will not penalize a late test. We just need you to do late tests. So while you do have due dates on tests, keep in mind that after that due date, we will still accept the test, okay? We do this because we know that sometimes there are tech issues, or there might be an issue that causes you to not be able to take the test at your scheduled time. But do not wait until the last possible day to do a test, because if you wait till the last possible minute, just keep in mind that everyone else is going to do that too. And the only time we've ever had a test session completely close off where we could not accommodate students was on the final day of tests. So please keep that in mind. Fridays are also usually very, very packed days. So, and that's because they're past days. But we also, encourage you to find space during your regular schedule on AB days as well. So we want to make sure that you guys are able to test whenever. We already mentioned this, but if a student is experiencing technical support with their device, we want to make sure that they can get help. Ask the teacher first. Usually teachers can support students. If you send me an email, if I'm on the phone or if I'm in meetings or if I'm not on campus, you might have to wait a long time. It's always best to start with the teacher if there are tech support needs. We also have a form that we will need you to sign up, or we'll need you to complete if you're having tech issues that requires a technician to look at it. And here's how you do that. From the Aiken iNNOVATE website, if you come up to technology support, you can click on the Aiken iNNOVATE tech support link. And right here at the top, there is a link to our tech support form. And you just simply fill out the form. You have your name, your PowerSchool ID. You'll probably end up memorizing this because we ask for it on every form. Click that you asked a teacher for help. Hopefully you will do that. And then the asset tag is going to be the number on the back side of your device. So sometimes it says TE, sometimes it says TB. Whatever that says, make sure you put that in. The student email, we need your email, and the learning coach email. So this is the parent. Learning coach is the parent email. So again, you'll have this information written out at the student's workstation so they can access it. And then we need a phone number where somebody can be reached by our tech. If she calls and she can't get through, then she can't provide support. Let us know when you're available, and then describe the issue and take a screenshot of that issue so that we can provide support. These are what this does is it shoots off an email to let everyone know what the issue is so we can get support as quickly as possible. And it also helps us keep a record of the tech issues so that if there are common issues that we need to investigate a solution for, we're able to do that. And then finally, we do allow students to have peripherals. So if you have a headset to help with distractions and a wireless mouse, feel free to use those. In the world of artificial intelligence, we do want to be really, really clear about the way that can be used in our program. And so we don't allow students to just use ChatGPT or Claude or some kind of a program to do work for them. That's never going to be appropriate. That's not the way the real world works. We want your student to have actual skills and to know things. If they get all the way through school and all they ever learned how to do was copy and paste and they had no skills, that's not transferable to the real world. And so we don't want to set students up to fail or to not have success beyond school. And so we have processes in place to ensure that we don't just allow students to cheat their ways through. Okay, so we will run writing assignments and math and Spanish and all that through AI checkers, and the teachers will use their discretion and their expertise to determine if AI was used. So please don't use AI at all to complete work on your behalf. And if your teacher allows for the use of AI in their class, they will let you know that. The easy thing is, before you submit anything, always ask the teacher if you can use AI if you want to do that, or even run your work through an AI checker. You can see the same things that we're going to see, but just know we are going to chase those down, and we're not going to have sympathy for any student that cheats in any way in our program. So I'm going to talk a little bit about testing violations and academic integrity violations. But first, here are some ways you can use your AI tools. If you need help in math, you can screenshot a math problem and get it to show you the steps, and then practice those steps. And then you can get it to give you several other examples of the same math problem, which can, again, help you practice the steps for that kind of issue. So that's a good way to use it as a study tool. You can use it to get feedback on your writing. You can use it for creating project outlines or brainstorming ideas for a research project or whatever it might be. You can use it to make study guides out of your notes or vocabulary lists. There's all sorts of different ways that you are able to use artificial intelligence ethically. All my teachers are experts on this, so please feel free to ask them questions. Always ask before you submit something, but in general, I would go into this thinking we're not using AI for creating or rewriting or redoing, revising your assignments for submission without the teacher expressly giving you instruction on what that looks like in their course. As a rule, and if you look at the handbook, we're saying don't use artificial intelligence tools on something that you're going to submit for a grade. Again, teachers have more discretion. So if you have any questions about this, definitely refer to the policy, but let me know what those questions are, and I'll get answers for you. Finally, and again, I don't have a slide for this, but regarding academic integrity and testing violations, we don't have, again, sympathy for any student that's going to cheat on any assignment. So I mentioned earlier when we covered the testing guidelines, I mentioned that if any of these are violated, it would result in a testing violation. Here's what that looks like. The first time that we see the violation of one of these guidelines, the student will receive a 0 on that assessment, and they may, in some circumstances, be given the opportunity to come and test in person and redo that under a monitored session with a person here on campus, right? So not all the time, but we do usually allow that depending on the circumstance, because tests are such big grades. We don't want a student to completely fail, but we are going to enforce the rules of the test, right? And then once that test is recompleted, then we will allow that grade to stand under those authentic testing situation. On the second violation, there is no redo at all on a testing violation. The second violation results in a 0, and at this point, we require the student and the learning coach to come in and have an in-person meeting with administration to discuss moving forward, and we will complete a academic plan that puts in place supports and requirements for moving forward with our testing procedures. And so if there is a third after that second one and after the meeting, then the student's permission will be revoked due to our lack of ability to trust that the student's going to do an authentic test. So it's a very big deal, and we take it very, very seriously. We have to be able to ensure the authenticity of our assessments. Now, regarding non-testing violations, so any kind of other academic integrity violation, such as a student using an AI tool to generate a PowerPoint project for them. On the first offense, that's going to be a 0, and the grade will stand. So we will not allow a redo on an AI generated work or some kind of an academic integrity violation. So keep that in mind. This is your warning for that. One single time, and that is going to be a 0, and there's no going back on that. If there is a second violation of academic integrity, then same exact process as with tests. The student and the learning coach is required to come in person to sit with administration and discuss moving forward and write a plan that they'll sign off on. And then again, if there is a third violation, same as with the tests, then the student and the student's permission to participate will be revoked, and that student will have to return to in-person learning due to a breach of trust. So again, we take these things extremely seriously, and this is the warning for that. We don't usually have these issues, but when we do, we do not play with these kinds of issues. We take them extremely seriously. And remember that Aiken Innovate is not a requirement, or it's not a right, it is a privilege. And so we do hold our students to a higher level of expectation around academic integrity. And so we just want to be totally transparent on that.